What's up, you guys? Godzilla fan freaks coming at you today with another figure review. And today we're reviewing another figure I got at last year's G Fest. I'm just going to call it, just like I did with the Hedra last review, the vintage Bandai Gyaos. This is the old Bandai Showa Gyaos. Very awesome figure, definitely caught my eye. Gyaos is my favorite Gamera villain, and I especially like the Showa as a favorite. I love the Showa Gyaos. I love the design. I just think it's a cool looking monster. Don't get me wrong, the Heisei Gyaos, Hyper Gyaos, Super Gyaos, whatever you want to call it, so on and so forth from the Heisei series. It's cool looking Gyaos and everything, but I still really like the Showa. I just think it's a kick ass looking design. I just think it just looks awesome. I love Showa. What can I say? So anyway, getting on into this figure review with paint job. Paint apps on this guy. He's really kind of he's very shiny, as you can tell. He kind of has a very nice shine to him. Now the Showa Gyaos really didn't have a shine to his body. Maybe Space Gyaos did, but the normal Showa Gyaos he really didn't. But this shine really just brings out, it actually brings out a lot of the details and everything in the sculpt, but we'll go over details in a second. So not only do you have this nice shine that is all over the body, his main base is pretty much, it probably looks like black at first, but it's just really a really deep dark brown, which is not really the color of Gauss at all. Gauss was pretty much a, very, he was kind of, pretty much just black and gray with a few little like red spots here and there. But overall, the paint job for it being a dark brown, it isn't bad. And then you got this nice little red highlight on the top of his head, which is really nice, kind of to depict when, the sun was coming out and his head would glow red and everything like that. And then you got some of the same reds and stuff like that in his chest and then, of course, on his wings. So very nice touches there. His teeth and his eyes are pretty much the same color. It's a very nice, kind of like a dark gold color, I want to say. Kind of a weird color to choose for his teeth, but whatever. But yeah, his eyes and his teeth are pretty much like a dark, deep yellowish gold, I want to say. And of course, he has the black pupils in his eyes. But then his claws on his, hands and his feet are a silver color. And that about does it for Gauss's paint apps here. Nothing too crazy, but definitely fits the character and definitely looks awesome. Now, as far as details go, Gauss doesn't have a lot of details, but like I said, all this shininess really brings out the detail in his skin. You can see all the different textures and waves and bumps and grooves, I want to say, and pits. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Just all the different textures, the folds in the neck, very very nicely done. All the detailing and the sculpting on top of his head and everything. Head, face, very nicely sculpted. You can definitely tell that this is Gauss. His ears and everything, very nicely sculpted. Wings, very nicely done and bat reptilian like. Legs, very nicely done. Now, that's one thing I want to say about this figure. I could be wrong. I probably just have to watch the old Gamera versus Gauss again. But I think it's just too appropriately sized with the figure. That way it looked good on display and could stand or whatever. But I think the legs might just be a touch too long for the Showa Gauss, but that's just me. And I want to say the tail's fin wasn't necessarily this big on the Showa Gauss, but like I said, it's probably just for balancing and all that stuff, so the figure can stand up. And then I want to say the wings are kind of a bit short, but again, I think it just all had to do with the way the figure, it had to be sculpted that way you could, have it stand up and displayed. But all the details very nice. Teeth are very nicely etched into the sculpt. Hands, all the fingers very individually sculpted, very nice. All the even got all the knuckle details and everything on both. Legs and feet very nicely well done. Tail very nicely done and kind of curves off to the side. All the waves and everything and the wings very nicely done. Again, all the folds in the chest very nicely well done, just very nicely well detailed and painted. Now, as far as articulation goes, articulation pretty basic for Gyaos. On mine, the joints are stiff, and it's an older Bandai figure, so the plastic and vinyl he's made out of is really hard. But you can kind of get his head to turn left and right. I can't get mine to do 360 because, again, it's harder, it's harder plastic vinyl material. So, and I don't want to take a chance of breaking something. So his head, though, I would imagine can probably rotate all the way around 360, but you could get him to look left and right. At least mine, he kind of does ever so slightly. The wings are, separated from the body, which I mean, they're not apart. It's not all one sculpt. So the wings do have, a little bit of a joint, but there's not much you can do with them. You can kind of get them to flap, but that's really it. You can't rotate them or anything like that. Legs, just because of the wings, you can get them, to go forward, and then you can get them to go backward ever so far. And so then that's about it for articulation. Nothing in the tail, nothing in the waist. Just pretty much, I don't even want to call the wings a point of articulation because they don't really do anything. But you got the heads and the legs pretty much right at the waist. Those are the only points of articulation on this guy. Now, next up for scaling, I don't have any Showa Bandai Gamera figures, but the only Gamera figure I do have from Bandai is the theater exclusive Gamera from Gamera 3 Revenge of Iris. This Gamera does come up short. This pretty much is kind of like Super Showa Gyaos right here. But if you did have any of the older Bandai Gameras and whatnot, I'm sure they would size in okay with Gyaos. But, not like this is terrible sizing either. I mean, Gamera is kind of almost always the underdog in all his movies. So, I mean, if you have a Showa Gyaos that's this big, but you have Gamera figures that are kind of like in this range, I mean, I guess it's okay. Again, I mean, we had Super Gyaos, which was like a giant Gyaos bird, and he was pretty big compared to Gamera. So, I mean, scaling with this Gamera, not great, but I mean, it's all right. It's not horrible. And then scaling with your average Godzilla figure. Now that's something that you probably couldn't get away with if you wanted to. Gyaos is a little bigger. I believe he is in the 7 or 8 inch scale. But so I mean anything that's 6 inch, Gamera wise, he'll probably scale in okay with just because you can get away with Gamera being the underdog and whatnot. But anything that's like Godzilla related or anything, like you can see, he's not really going to fit in anything well 6 inch wise with Godzilla. But I'm sure if there's anything 7 to 8 inches out there, he'll scale in better. I want to say. So that's about it for this figure. I don't have the tag. I got him without the tag. Just a little cheaper that way for me. Awesome figure. I'm glad I have it in my collection. With or without the tag, doesn't bother me. But just an awesome figure. Again, I love Showa Gyaos, and hopefully I covered everything good in this review. Anyway, you guys, like always, we are Godzilla fan freaks. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next video review. Thank you for watching.